Investor and entrepreneur Cyriac Roeding says China will be the only real competitor in Silicon Valley. The co-founder of the shopping app Shopkick recently returned from a business trip to Beijing, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong. While he was there, he met with dozens of Chinese startups and said he was amazed by their entrepreneurial drive and speed. Cyriac Roeding joins us now from Stanford, California. Thank you so much, and good morning to you. I know it's early there. Cyriac, I'm curious, you met with so many and at different levels of this. What's the biggest misconception you think there is about these entrepreneurs and startups in China?
Well, one of the things that people think is that in China it's all about cloning and nothing else of Western ideas. And yes, to be fair, there is a lot of cloning, but that doesn't mean that it ends there. It's just the starting point. Take an example. You know the company Meituan? Have you heard of it?
No.
So Meituan is a company that most people in the Western world have never heard about. It's 6 years old. They started as a clone of Groupon in 2010. And at the time, there were 800 other startups in China trying to do the exact same thing. 1 year after it started, it was already a different company than a Groupon clone. It had already evolved from 50% discounts to small amounts. Then it added online ticketing, and then it added food delivery services. Today, it's worth $20 billion. So people think that, you know, in China, it's a little playground for startups and it's not that important. It is already the big leagues now, and valuations can skyrocket to a level that is usually only seen in Silicon Valley. And it's not true that they're only cloning. That is an outdated argument.
Right.
We will see a wave of innovation coming.
And a dangerous one, I think, if you hang on to it. Well, one thing you say is that Chinese startups are really fast. Why is that so important?
So when you want to serve a market that has 1.3 billion consumers, out of which 530 million have a smartphone, that's 2.5 times more than in the United States, for example. If you serve that market, you are actually talking to people who have not used the internet. Most of them have not used the internet on a PC because they didn't have one. So that means they're adopting new services at a speed that is unheard of, even in the Western world, even in the United States. And therefore, startups need to move really fast. And how do they do that? They have something that's called 996. You know, that means working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. And that's the typical employee. That's not the founder or the top executives. For them, it's probably more like 9, 11, 6.5. Right. So they're working at a level of dedication that's unheard of. I am personally not a believer that just working more hours is a good thing. Right. And after all, who is a great leader when you don't know your kids and you haven't slept in 5 days? But it shows you the dedication.
The dedication. I want to ask you about that because I think that, you know, in a way, it mimics a lot of what we saw at the huge sort of manufacturing revolution. You know, everyone working, moving out into the cities, working, trying to get rich, trying to get ahead. But there's been a lot of backlash on that now, and a lot of people think it's not a sustainable model. Do you think that's going to ease back in the tech world? I mean, if you're winning, but you're winning that way, is that ultimately going to make you successful and a real competitor on the global stage?
I don't think that's sustainable because you cannot be only driven by financial returns. If you are working on an innovation-based startup, which usually takes longer and oftentimes for long periods of time doesn't work. If you're only cloning, like it was in the beginning in Beijing, then it's easier because it's usually super fast. It takes 2 or 3 years. You know whether you're going to win or not, perhaps even after 18 months. If you are driving innovation, which is the next wave in China, then you need a different motivation that helps you get through phases when it's not just all about money return. And I think we're starting to see that because some of the entrepreneurs in China are now already coming from a middle class that didn't even exist a few years ago. And so they have a slightly different set of motivations, which is helpful. You can see the first companies coming out of China that are based on innovation. For example, DJI makes drones for consumers, the things that you can fly in your garden, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? This is a typical Silicon Valley play. It's design meeting technology, meeting marketing. But 70% market share is held by a company called DJI out of Shenzhen in China.
And Cyriac, I have to tell you, we have covered them a lot and the lead they have in the drone market. You're absolutely right. Fascinating insight and something that we should all pay a lot of attention to. You have to know your competitors if you're going to succeed. Cyriac Roeding, thank you for joining us.